We're going to talk about assystITAM standalone installation. It's strongly advised that ITAM is installed on a dedicated server with a clean installation of Windows and a server that does not contain any other applications or roles. We need to turn off IIS server because ITAM uses port 80, as does IIS. When we install ITAM, it has a default license of 45 days, a trial license. Other videos will talk about how to apply the live license. We need to contact assyst, and we need to have a permanent MAC address of the server that needs to be licensed. If we change licenses and if we change servers, the license will not operate. We copy the package of assystITAM to a local directory on the server. There's lots of scripts in there and they must be run from a local disk. For our preparation in this document, everything was copied to the C drive, which is the best place to put ITAM. When we install ITAM, every packet of information has an install order.txt that explains what we have to do and how we have to do it. We're not consigning assystITAM to your memory. There's a document, there's a script that tells you what you have to do in what order, and you can see at the bottom of this screen what we have to do. You will also notice ITAM would prefer that we run as administrator, so don't forget to do that. We have implemented ITAM on the C fault, on the C drive, in an area called Access Media, but again, not essentially do that, but it has to go on a unique server. We're going to access the Sapphire IMS 4A setup file. You'll notice when we get into this, it's very much following the next. There's not many deviations we have to make, other than a few little bits that we'll talk about when we do this in the video. We need to run as administrator, as mentioned earlier. We can't just be logged on as an administrator. We need to run as administrator. Once we install it, again, we advise that it goes into C program files x86. We add in our ports and our passwords. This will all be notated and seen on the video in a few moments' time. We apply a database server, a driver and a port number. Username will be root and a password that we created earlier. As we mentioned, clicking on next on the main installation will be completed, and then we create and add in other information and other patches as we have to go. We need to import a port, which is defaulted to 8080. We have the ability to change it, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part of the video. Once we've installed the main part, we then install the SAPP scripts. Once again, we follow the install order. Once again, we run as administrator, and in most of these, we next, and get on and install it until the next one has to happen. You'll notice, or maybe not notice, you'll be aware that installation will take a significant amount of time, maybe a couple of hours. We've shortened it in the video so we don't have to wait, but don't be amazed if it takes you maybe an hour or two to install this. In this example, we're going to show you how to install assystITAM. When we actually get into the process, and you saw from the slides, it's very much clicking on next. There's a few things to be aware of, and we'll point them out as we go. We've downloaded it off our assystITAM, and I'll select it. You can see we've got three options: core install, patches, and AWL, which is the Axios slant on things. We also have the install order. It's worthwhile having a look at that. It tells you what to do, it tells you the release, it tells you how to do it, it tells you what to run, it tells you to run it as an administrator. If it's an upgrade, we follow the following. There's our options. At any stage you can go back to this. I'm going to go into my core install. Prerequisites folder, we can leave. Sapphire IMS setup, we want to run. Remembering, as we just saw, we right click and we run as administrator. We welcome to the install wizard. We next it. Three options: standalone, distributed, and for MSPs. We're going to do a standalone today. Depending on who you are, we'll pick the most relevant one. As mentioned in the slides earlier, we nixed it. We're not going to change the destination folder. We want it to be in a C drive. This has connotations and issues if we do change that for other things we do later on down the track. It's advisable to keep it in a C drive in that location. So we're going to click on Next. Once again, the port we leave as the same. That's the one it wants to use. The root password. So it's asking me for the password for my root ID. I'm going to use a very simple one of A today. So we nixed it. Upon completion there, we click on Next, and it will now install. Upon completion of the Sapphire IMS setup, we need to type in our database server. Now again, we're using a local host today, so localhost it is. MySQL 3306, fantastic. Username was going to be root, was asked for earlier, with my password of A, and we nixed it. Specify the port running the portal as port 80. Once again, it should be in the range of 102.25 to that number, or 80. 80 is the default. Let's leave it as 80 if we can. If we have to change it, then we do, but we need to be aware and make a note of that. At that stage, we click on Next, and the installation continues. Upon completion of installation, the Finish button appears, so we select it. We've now completed our core install. So secondly, we have to go to Patches. When we click on Patches, you can see there's a patch, an application 4082 and 4084, and an SAPP Latin 1 to UTF, which we have to run. Notice one is rather large, one is a bit smaller, and one is even smaller again. We could look at the readmes if necessary, but we don't have to. So what we need to do is to run 4082, but remember we need to right click and we need to run it as an administrator. We do that. The system processes. It will install the relevant patch. We nixed it. We keep the defaults the same. We nixed it. And the system will now process and do what it has to do to install that particular patch. Upon completion, the patch will be installed. We will then run the next one. Upon completion, once we've run the SAPP 4082, we click on Finish. Then what we need to do is to run SAPP 4084. Once again, right click, select it, right click, run as administrator. We nixed it, and we install the next patch that has to be installed. Upon completion of the patch 4084, we click on Finish. The patch is installed. The next thing to have to do is to run the Latin 1 to UTF converter. Only has to be run once, but it has to be run. So again, right click, run as admin. We select the language we wish, which is English. We click OK. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. This will now be installed, and the Latin 1 to UTF converter will be in. Upon completion of the last Latin 1 to UTF, we click on Finish. We've now installed the patches. Lastly, we're going to go back and navigate to the AWL v2.2, and we're going to run the Axios WL. We're going to right click, run it as administrator. This is reasonably quick, and it says to me the Sapphire service is starting. Press any key to continue. Press enter. We now have Axios assystITAM installed on the server.